If it's some mug, I'm gonna shriek.
Oh my God, it is!
I was a student of absurdist comedy in college, so I learned a lot from some of the old, comedy masters in silent film, but also some of the newer ones who have kind of pioneered this this Gen Z of absurdist, self-deprecating humor, like Tim and Eric, a bunch of other comedians like that. So I would write papers and stuff on them, and I really do enjoy internet humor. I consider myself, and a lot of my peers consider themselves internet people. I do know some actors that completely removed from that stuff, which is understandable. I get the unappealing nature of it sometimes, but I do encourage people to laugh at me and laugh with me, more specifically, when we make jokes and have fun online. I'm a streamer, so with that comes the territory of being funny, just to entertain. So yeah, I really do enjoy people seeing me as a performer and then seeing me as the character, right? Because my personal entertainment endeavors are completely different to the characters that I voice, but you can still see some of the where I get the similarities from in both. So yeah, I do encourage people to come and watch my streams and hang out with me and enjoy the entertainment value of it. Oh, VO to go, yeah. That's something that me and Alex Lee have been kind of wrapping our brains around for the past few months, if not half a year. We're currently on a hiatus because we've just gotten so busy. It's convention season, so we're all over the place traveling. It's it's impossible to get actors together, but it's doubly so to get voice actors together, especially when we do these features where we have to get a particular talent in for the show and interview them. We got to come up with stuff to do and bits to do, and a lot of that stuff is done on the fly. Rarely do we write out a whole lot. We have like one bit that we write out. Surrounding that bit is a bunch of smaller bits. Like Ray Chase was going to show us where he threw up on the corner, when he got cast as Noctis, right? And he did that. But around that, we were, Alex was in Noctis cosplay, and it was 105 degrees outside in Los Angeles. So, Noctis cosplay is full black denim, right? So you're just like, oh my God, it's oppressive. And we would have all sorts of off-the-cuff stuff. But VO to go, we're on a hiatus right now just because we're all so busy. We'll see if it comes back. We have 3 episodes out right now. I know Alex is working on some other projects, and I'm working on some other projects internally, like creative projects and things like that. But we'll see if we ever hook back up again. The format has been established.
From the get-go.
Well, I was a theater actor for about 10 years,
okay.
And I really enjoyed that. But I also liked playing video games. So it was hard to do. And if you know theater, you have to do rehearsals too. So it's a week of rehearsal, tech week, and then you do shows every night, and you're exhausted by the end of that stuff. So I was also on the college team for League of Legends. We weren't really sanctioned by the college or anything like that. We had a place to play. We rented the rooms, and we were able to actually go in and practice and things like that. But scrimming is another thing you have to do when you're a pro AM video game player. And scrimming, if you're playing something like League of Legends, it's anywhere between 40 minutes to 90-minute games sometimes if you don't want to finish. And that takes a long time. And then you have to watch tape, just like a football player. So that takes twice as long. And then you have to, give notes and things like that, and get notes from your coach and social media and things like that. Those are all engagements of a professional athlete. And I just didn't have the time to do any of that. So I had to pick. And instead of picking, I decided to do a little bit of both. The people who were voicing in the games that I was playing aren't just this guy's son, or it's not the game developer's son or the janitor they pulled off the street or something like that, right? There's an actor that they were given an audition and they were brought in, and there's a whole process there. There's a whole world that I hadn't experienced yet. So I tried to do a lot of it in college, and I was making more money there than I was working at the deli. So, because I worked at a family-owned deli making sandwiches, and I was making more money doing online voiceover than I was making sandwiches talking to old German ladies at the deli. And that was kind of like a green flag to me that was like, oh, okay, so maybe I can start pushing this a little bit more. And then I showed my dad I was making money, and he's like, oh, you need to do this. This is how you make money. You need to do this because you're not making money as an actor in theater. Not at all. You haven't made any money. You've made zero money. But my dad's like, yeah, so let's do this. And I said, well, here's the thing, Dad. I can't do this in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he's like, where do you have to do it? I said Los Angeles. And he's like, I don't think you should do this anymore. I think it's a terrible idea. And I think that you should stop and you should just try and do radio or something in Cincinnati. And I said, no. I moved to Los Angeles and slept on my buddy's floor. And you know the whole story. Some money in my pocket, managed to make that last a little while. And then after a couple of years, I was able to book work. And any artist, really, when you put the work out there and you get it right the first time and everyone's like, this is good. Can I have some more? And you're just like, oh, yeah, sure. I didn't think you'd like it that much. Here you go. And they just keep consuming it. And you're just like, oh, my God, okay, cool. I need to start, like, this is taking a lot of time out of my schedule. Let's start monetizing this and, like, making sure that there's, like, a gate. So, like, you really want it? Okay, here you go. Amateur projects. I worked on indie games. I worked on anything that would want me. And it's gotten to the point where I get to pick and choose what I'm starting to work on. And like, if I want to audition for, if I get an audition, it's like, oh, that looks cool. I can audition for that and maybe I'll get it. Who knows? I really like, there's a sequel to an action horror RPG called Dying Light 2, which is the sequel to Dying Light, obviously. And that is probably one of the most fun things I've worked on because I was there since the inception of that video game. Like since they started doing scratch tracks and even thinking about casting people, I was there doing the scratch tracks for the protagonist, right? Scratch tracks. This was back when I was in the dorm, right? And then slowly I started working on them more. I was ready whenever they wanted to. You know, like we'd said earlier, you say jump, I say how high, right? I'm at the drop of a hat, whatever you need me to do. And I would inject in those sessions. I would inject because I knew I loved the franchise. I loved Dying Light. Techland was Dead Island. You know, they worked on a bunch of other games like that, and loved those games. And I knew from the sides what the game was. So I'm just like, can I work on this? Maybe is there room for me in this game? You know, even if it's just like NPCs, I would love to, just throw my hat in the ring. And they eventually, this is being very reductive, but they eventually were just like, no, you can have the role. Because I think it's not a Western game. Most of what they were doing was in Polish anyway, so it was just like, oh, this is the English guy, right? This is the language option, right? So I was lucky that I got to continue being the protagonist. But that luck turned into, after being on the project for a while, they noticed that I had a semi-successful voiceover career, and I feel like 2 and 2 came together, and it's like, oh, this guy is not just the scratch guy. He knows what he's doing. He's being cast in other things, so we can trust him with this. I mean, I just got announced I'm in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth last night at the Game Awards. Well, right now we're playing 5e. I've played all sorts of tabletop, Pathfinder, 40K wargaming. I frequent a lot of 40K shops back in Cincinnati when I go back. There was one in Ireland that I got to go to and have a good time at. But yeah, all sorts of methods and rule sets. So I don't really have a preferred character class. I enjoy aspects of every one, and I think I have played every character class, at least in D&D 5e. I think I've played every character class. I mean, it's going to sound really boring, but I like human fighter for a lot of reasons. You know, have you ever seen the table where it's like 90% of people play a human fighter? And whenever I get laughed at or yelled at, or it's just like, you can play D&D, you can play literally anybody you want. Like, why are you playing a human fighter? In fiction, there's just something that I really like about when fiction writers, and this happens all the time, fiction writers put humans in this box where it's like, we don't know why they're able to be as like stick-to-itive and hardworking, and humans are reliable, and they have a certain, it's not magic, but like it feels like magic. Humans are able to do things that are incredible, right? And everybody else has magic, but humans are very boilerplate basic, and they still manage to pull off some crazy stuff, right? That's what I really like about fantasy humans. They're better. They're just better, they're just really good at something, and that's what I really enjoy. So human fighter is just kind of like the boilerplate that you can turn into anything you really want, because D&D is modular and multifaceted. It's easy to tell where these mangakas draw their inspiration because it's relatable. It's one of the most played game genres on the planet as an MMO. So seeing that, you leveled up, immediately you know what that means. You got, a new ability, you can wind slash or something like that. And that's relatable. It's hitting a touchstone right there. So I watch all sorts. I've Goblin Slayer, there's any number of isekais that I really do enjoy. And I could, list off even shows that aren't isekais, that are fantasy, that still pull from that sort of thing, right? So it's a pervasive, and for a good reason. It is a pervasive genre that people just seem to resonate with. A lot of the characters that I voice are, for lack of a better term, like sexy dudes, like big sexy guys. And a lot of those characters that I also voice are bisexual, or I play them to that effect, and it is registered, and people seem to like that. When I'm dead and gone, I don't want people to go to my IMDb and see a number and be like, oh, he voiced 250 characters, right? It's not about the number of characters that you play or anything. It's not a competition. There's no, meters or anything like that. There's no leaderboards. As much as Behind the Voice Actors makes you think that there is a leaderboard where people are just like voting on characters. Having a character to be like, that's like, I'm bisexual and I'm comfortable in that. I'm comfortable in my sexuality is, for some people, a rarity. And in the last few years, I've played 4 or 5 characters that are very comfortable in their bisexuality, and I've had people come up to me at my booths, and I'm very open about that. People come to my booth, and it's like it was what I needed to hear. What your character said was what I needed to hear. Beyond that, it's the process, the ancient simian process of telling stories, and having people be invested in those stories. That's one reason I play D&D so much. Is as a DM, I want to tell everybody else's story. There is a big story that I'm trying to tell, sure, but I want everybody else's story to be affected by that, or I want everybody else's story to affect the big story. And at the end of the day, we have this long yarn that we have spun together, whether we're acting or, playing D&D together, or, just going out for drinks. There's this story that we have kind of told of our day, of, the fight that we had against the dragon. I like telling those stories, and I want to be known as a storyteller. I think that's the legacy that I want to live behind, or at least a story facilitator. Maybe not the person who's telling the stories, but is able to let people see them. Everywhere I go, I try and get a mug. And the majority of my, glassware collection at home is mugs. It's whales, characters, people gift me mugs of things that they find that I may like. Viz Media gifted me a bunch of character mugs after VO to Go. They're like, hey, here, you like mugs? Here's an Inuyasha mug, and here's a Naruto mug, and here's, all sorts of different character mugs that I was able to collect. I have an Age of Sigmar Warhammer 40K mug that is awesome. And it is the only mug currently that I have in my Dallas apartment. So every morning, that thing, for the Emperor, that thing gets all sorts of use and abuse. So, and it's really cool too, because it's like this old, that Pigeon Forge style of ceramic pottery that's like fired, and there's all sorts of like gradients and things like that. It's really cool. I spent a lot of money on it, and it's really great, and I feel like a Viking every time I drink it. Oh, it's adorable. I love the little trout. What is in here? Uh-oh. Is this a mug? If it's a mug, I'm going to shriek.
Oh my God, it is!
Yo, this is cute! Oh my gosh, what a unique mug. This is an unusual mug. This is in the best way, and it's even got an artist's signature on the bottom. That's amazing. What a rarity. You don't find that in like corporate mug. Not at all. No big mug. I hope this is a polar bear. It looks like a polar bear to me. A koala? Okay, I'll go with koala.
A polar bear.
Sure. They're all the same. It's good. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for watching Anime Diet. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe button for more tasty treats.